जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा
कुंज बिहारी
जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी
जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी
जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी
जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन
यशोदानन्दन भज जनरञ्जन
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन
यशोदानन्दन भज जनरञ्जन
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारि 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 जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण recitation prayers on page 1 of the introduction to Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is.
No. It's done. Cold water. It was. It isn't so bad.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam Pangum langayate girim Yadkripatamaham vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramanandha Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Katanjana Smritesmin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismrite Viparitam Syat Shri Chaitanya Namamitam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Krishna. So, first of all, welcome to the first Sunday feast program of 2025. Hare Krishna Prabhu. And I'm sure everyone had a beautiful New Year's Eve and a New Year. And may this year bring forth many, many more associations with devotees and many more opportunities for us to sincere devotional service to the Lord. On that note, I'm sure many of you must have taken some resolutions, and I've heard and often realize that these resolutions don't really last long, and therefore, as what I've heard from my mentors and elders, is that we must add new practices to our life, because practice is something that you keep doing, right? And when we set forth new practices, we need to reflect on what we have done in the past, see what worked, and if it didn't, stop doing that and do something new that will help you, proceed favorably in this path of devotion, right? So the words that we must remember is reflect on our actions in the past, and obviously set forth new practices for the future. And when we do reflect of what we've done in the past, if we've done something that hasn't gone well, we must also repent for those actions. And by repentance, the Shastras say that we do not repeat those actions again, right? An honest person is one who genuinely repents for actions that have not been wonderful for him or her, and then does not repeat those actions again. And to talk about new practices, or so to say resolutions, it is said that when we make resolutions or when we set forth to do new practices, we have to be determined to do them, right? Because if we're not determined, we're not going to achieve anything out of them, right? And the Shastras also say it is not, just by depending on our determination, nothing works, right? If you're just determined, is it sufficient for you to achieve a certain thing? No, you must also have a suitable environment and avoid unfavorable environment, right? So if there's something that will shake your determination to achieve a certain goal, just avoid that situation. Choose a situation that will be favorable for you, right? Yeah, on that note, talking about resolutions and reflections, let's go forth on our journey into the Bhagavad Gita, the ancient text that we're all studying and learning from. We're on the 8th chapter, entitled Attaining the Supreme, right? So before we begin with today's verse, which is verse number 11, we will just chant the first 10 verses. Is that okay for everybody? Yeah. It's going to be a call and repeat, so kindly repeat. It's nice that we've completed 7 chapters and we've finished 10 verses in the last year, and now we're on to the 11th verse. So, does anyone remember what the first verse of the 8th chapter is? No. Okay, let's start. Arjuna Vacha Kim Tad Brahma Kim Adhyatmam Kim Karma Purushottama Adhibhutam Cha Kim Proktam Adidaivam Kim Uchyate. Please repeat. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Text 2. Adiyajna Katam Kotra Dehesmin Madhusudana Prayana Kale Chakatham
Jagatam
Neyosmi
Neyosmi
Neyosi
Neyosi
Niyatatmabhihi.
Niyatatmabhihi.
Who is the Lord of sacrifice?
Who is the Lord of sacrifice?
And how does he live in the body?
How does he live in the body?
O Madhusudana.
O Madhusudana.
And how can those engaged
And how can those engaged
in devotional service
in devotional service
know you at the time of death?
know you at the time of death?
Text 3. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Aksharam Brahma Paramam
Aksharam Brahma Paramam
Swabhavodhyatmam Uchyate
Svabhavodhyatma Uchyate
Bhuta Bhavod Bhavakaro
Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaro
Visargha Karma Samnitaha.
Visarga Karma Samnitaha.
Is everyone chanting? Akshara, do you need a book? Okay, awesome. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
the indestructible,
the indestructible,
transcendental living entity
transcendental living entity
is called Brahman,
is called Brahman,
and his eternal nature
and his eternal nature
is called Adhyatma,
is called Adhyatma,
the self.
the self.
Action pertaining to the development
Action pertaining to the development
of the material
of
bodies
the material bodies
of the living entities
of the living entities
is called karma,
is called karma,
or fruitive
of
activities.
fruitive activities.
Text 4. Adhibhutam sharo bhavaha
Adhibhutam sharo bhavaha
purushascha-adhidevatam
purushascha-adhidevatam
adhyajnyohamevatra
adhyajnyohamevatra
dehe dehabhritamvara
dehe dehabhritambara
dehe dehabhritamvara.
dehe dehabhritambara.
O best of the embodied beings,
O best of the embodied beings,
the physical nature,
the physical nature,
which is constantly changing,
which is constantly changing,
is called Adhibhuta,
is called Adhibhuta,
the material manifestation.
the material manifestation,
The universal form of the Lord,
the universal form of the Lord,
which includes all the demigods,
which includes all the demigods,
like those of the sun and moon,
like those of the sun and moon,
is called Adhideva.
Adhideva, it's called Adhideva.
And I,
And I,
the Supreme Lord,
the Supreme Lord,
represented
represented
as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being,
as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being,
am called
am called
Adhyajna,
Adhyajna,
the Lord of Sacrifice.
the Lord of Sacrifice.
Text 5. Antakale
Antakale
chamameva
Chamameva
smaran muktva kalevaram
Smaran Mukva Kalevaram
yah prayati samadbhavam
Ya Prayati Samadbhavam
yati nastyatra samshayah.
Yati Nastyatra Samshayaha.
And whoever
And whoever
at the end of his life
at the end of his life
quits his body,
quits his body,
remembering me alone,
remembering me alone,
at once attains my nature.
At once attains my nature.
Of this,
of this
there is no doubt.
there is no doubt.
Text 6. Yam yam vapi
Yam Yam Vapi
smaran bhavam
Smaran Bhavam
tyajatyante
Yajatante
kalevaram
Kalevaram
tam tameveti
Tam Tameveti
kaunteya
Kaunteya
sada tadbhava
Sada Tadbhava
bhavitaha.
Bhavitaha.
Whatever state of being
Whatever state of being
one remembers
one remembers
when he quits his body,
when he quits his body,
O son of Kunti,
O son of Kunti,
that state he will attain
that state he will attain
without fail.
without fail.
Text 7. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu
Tatsmat sarveshu kaleshu
ma anusmara yudhyacha
Mamanusmara yudhyacha
mai arpita mano buddhir
Maya Pitamano Buddhi
mame vaishyasya samshayah.
Mame Vaishasya Samshayaha.
Therefore, Arjuna,
Therefore, Arjuna,
you should always think of me
you should always think of me
in the form of Krishna,
in the form of Krishna,
and at the same time
and at the same time
carry out your prescribed duty
carry out the prescribed duty
of fighting.
of fighting.
With your activities dedicated to me
With your activities dedicated to me
and your mind and intelligence fixed on me,
and your mind and intelligence fixed on me,
you will attain me without doubt.
you will attain me without doubt.
Text 8. Abhyasa yoga yuktena
Abhyasa yoga yuktena
Chetasa nanya gamina
Chetasya Nanya Gamina
Paramam Purusham Divyam
Paramam Purusham Divyam
Yati Partanu Chintayan.
Yati Bhatanu Chintayan.
He who meditates on me
He who meditates upon me
as the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
as the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
his mind
his mind
constantly engaged
is constantly engaged
in remembering me,
in remembering me,
undeviated from the path,
undeviated from the path.
he, O Partha,
He, O Partha,
is sure to reach me.
is sure to reach me.
Text 9. Kavim Puranam
Kavim Puranam
Anushashitaram
Anushashitaram
Anor Aniyamsam
Anovaniyamsam
Anusmaredhyah
Anusmaredhyah
Sarvasya Dataram
Sarvasya Dhataram
Achintya Rupam
Achintya Rupam
Aditya Varnam
Aditya Varnam
Tamasa Parastat.
Tamasa Parastat.
One should meditate upon the Supreme Person
One should meditate upon the Supreme Person
as the one who knows everything,
as the one who knows everything,
as he who is the oldest,
as he who is the oldest,
who is the controller,
who is the controller,
who is smaller than the smallest,
who is smaller than the smallest,
who is the maintainer of everything,
who is the maintainer of everything,
who is beyond all material conception,
who is beyond all material conception,
who is inconceivable,
who is inconceivable,
and who is always a person.
who is always a person.
He is luminous like the sun,
He is luminous like the sun.
and he is transcendental
He is transcendental
beyond the material nature.
beyond this material nature.
Hare Krishna. Sit down.
Are you all in with the Bhagavad Gita? Okay. Text 10. Prayana kale
Prayanakale
manasa chalena
Manasa Chalena
bhaktya yukto
Bhaktya Yukto
yoga balena chaiva
Yoga Balena Jaiva
bruvor madhye
Dhruvo Madhye
pranamavesha samyak
Pranamavesha Samyak
satam param
Satam Param
purusham
Purusham
upaiti divyam.
Upaiti Divyam.
One who at the time of death
One who at the time of death
fixes his life air
fixes his life hair
between the eyebrows
between the eyebrows
and by the strength of yoga
and by the strength of yoga
with an undeviating mind
with an undeviating mind
engages himself
engages himself
in remembering the Supreme Lord
in remembering the Supreme Lord
in full devotion
in full devotion
will certainly attain
will certainly attain
to
to
the Supreme Personality of
the
Godhead.
Supreme Personality of God.
Okay, and we are going to begin with today's text, which is text number 11. Yadaksharam
Yadaksharam
Veda Vido Vadanti
Vedavido Vadanti
Vishanti
Vishanti
Yadyatayo
Yadyatayo
Vitaragaha
Vitaragaha
Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti
Yadaksharam Vedavido Vadanti
Yadaksharam
Yadaksharam
Veda Vido Vadanti
Vedavido Vadanti
Vishanti Yadyatayo
Vishanti Yadyatayo
Vitaragaha
Vitaragaha
Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Yadyatayo Vitaragaha
Yadaksharam Vedavido Vadanti Vishanti Yadyatayo Vitaragaha
Vitaragaha.
Vitaragaha.
Is there anyone who didn't get the first two lines?
One more time.
Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti
Yadaksharam Vedavido Vadanti
Vishanti Yadyatayo Vitaragaha
Vishanti Yadyatayo Vitaragaha
Yadichanto
Yadichanto
Brahmacharyam Charanti
Brahmacharyam Charanti
Yadichanto
Yadichanto
Brahmacharyam Charanti
Brahmacharyam Charanti
Tatte Padam
Tatte Padam
Sangrahena Pravakshe
Sangrahena Pravakshe
Tatte Padam
Tatte Padam
Sangrahena Pravakshe
Sangrahena Pravakshe
Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Yadyatayo Vitaragaha Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe. Please repeat.
Yadaksharam Vedavido Vadanti Vishanti Yadyatayo Vitaragaha brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshye.
If a couple of you can chant this verse, although I'd love everyone to chant this verse, maybe some of you can chant. Yad aksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yad yatayo vitaragaha yad ichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe.
Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti
Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti
vishanti yatyatayo vitaragaha
vishanti yad yatayo vitaragaha
yad ichanto brahmacharyam charanti
yad ichanto brahmacharyam charanti
tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe.
tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yad yatayo vitaragaha yad ichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. Anyone else?
I think everybody can chant.
Together? Okay, 1, 2.
No. One, everybody.
Oh yeah, everybody, sure.
There's only that much.
Mataji, Prabhu, please. We're all here to study together. Yad aksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yad yatayo vitaragaha yad ichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe.
Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti
Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti
vishanti yadyatyo vitaragaha
vishanti yad yatayo vitaragaha
yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti
yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti
tatte padam sangrahena parvakshe.
tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe.
Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti
Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yad yatayo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. Well, I'll get the rest of you to chant after we read the translation, word for word and translation, if that's okay. Translation by His Divine Grace and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Okay, let's read the word for word before we read the translation. Yat, that which, Aksharam, syllable Om, Veda Vidaha, persons conversant with the Vedas, Vadanti, say, Vishanti, enter, Yat, in which, Yatayaha, great sages, Vitaragaha, in the renounced order of life, Yat, that which, Ichantaha, desiring, Brahmacharyam, celibacy, Charanti, practice, Tat, that, Te, unto you, Padam, situation, Sangrahena, in summary, Pravakshe, I shall explain. Translation, please repeat. Persons who have learned, persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process
this process
by which
by which
one may attain salvation.
one may attain salvation.
Okay, anybody else wants to chant the verse before we go on to the purport?
Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation.
Thank you. So those were kids who are about 11 years of age. Please go with Adoksha Maji. You all have a test. Because we are desirous of promoting you to the next grade. We want to see how much of the knowledge that we've taught you have retained.
Very good. Hare Krishna.
It's a very simple test of yeah.
11 years.
No. You will have to chant shloka for your oral test, but this is just a written test. Very, very simple. It will take you probably 10 minutes, and once you're done, then we'll see what to do. Adoksha Maji is going to supervise you. No chit-chatting. Try to do it very genuinely. Okay. Well, the children were not aware that they were going to have a test, right? And it's very simple as far as I think it is.
They are very smart.
Yes.
They won, right? Last time.
Oh, the kids, yeah.
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 Okay, so if no one wants to chant the shloka, we will go on to the purport of Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shri Krishna has recommended to Arjuna the practice of Sat Chakra Yoga, in which one places the air of life between the eyebrows. Taking it for granted that Arjuna might not know how to practice Sat Chakra Yoga, the Lord explains the process in the following verses. The Lord says that Brahman, although one without a second, has various manifestations and features. Especially for the impersonalist, the Akshara or Omkara, the syllable Om, is identical with Brahman. Krishna here explains the impersonal Brahman in which the renounced order of sages enter. In the Vedic system of knowledge, students from the very beginning are taught to vibrate Om and learn of the ultimate impersonal Brahman by living with the spiritual master in complete celibacy. In this way, they realize two of Brahman's features. This practice is very essential for the student's advancement in spiritual life, but at the moment, such brahmachari and unmarried celibate life is not at all possible. The social construction of the world has changed so much that there is no possibility of one's practicing celibacy from the beginning of student life. Throughout the world, there are many institutions of different departments of knowledge, but there is no recognized institution where students can be educated in the brahmachari principles. Unless one practices celibacy, advancement in spiritual life is very difficult. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has announced, according to the scriptural injunctions of this age of Kali, that in this age, no process of realizing the Supreme is possible except the chanting of the holy names of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's it. So, in this chapter, it's a very interesting chapter in which we are learning how to attain the Supreme. When we say attaining the Supreme, different people have different understandings, right? And while we are studying this chapter, we understand it means to attain the abode of the Lord or to go back home, back to Godhead. But it also means that you leave this body, right? And through this chapter, we come to know how different people can leave their body, right? In the past few verses, we've been studying how a person in the renounced order can leave his body by practicing the Sat Chakra Yoga. Right? What did the last verse cover? Anyone remembers?
Take your ear line into your eyebrows, and that goes to.
And meditate on the Supreme Absolute Truth, and then you leave this body, right? So, prayana kale manasachalena bhruvor madhye pranam aveshisana. You bring the life air between the two bhruvas, and what do you do while you bring the life air? It's just not that you don't think of anything or you don't do anything. You meditate on the Supreme Absolute Truth, right? And in this verse, it is said that people in the renounced order of life, they meditate on the Supreme Absolute Truth by chanting the Omkara. Right? In the 7th chapter, we've learned that Krishna is present in this world in different forms. Right? We can visualize, we can feel Krishna's presence in different ways, right? And one such way is, what is that verse in the 7th chapter where Krishna says that he is Om? The verse starts with, I am the taste of water. Oh, well, I'm just connecting. We are studying about, in this verse, it says that people meditate with Omkara, right? So we're just trying to find out where Krishna says that he's Om. He's the mantra Om. He says everywhere. Yeah, he's everywhere.
I think Virat Swarupa, he was telling everything, right?
Yeah, no, in the 7th chapter, I'm particularly directing your attention to the 7th chapter because we've studied the 7th chapter in detail, right? Maybe you can refer, and there's one shloka between the 1st to the 10th verse where Krishna says, I am the taste of water, I am the syllable Om, I am the ability in man, no, I am the light of the sun. No, that's a verse before that.
Rasoham apsu kaunteya.
Yeah, can you all repeat the verse? Rasoham apsu kaunteya.
Rasoham apsu kaunteya.
Can you tell everybody the verse number?
It's 8.
7.8.
7.8.
Rasoham apsu kaunteya.
Rasoham apsu kaunteya.
Prabhasmi sashi suryayoho.
Prabhasmi shashi suryo.
Pranavah sarva vedeshu.
Pranah sarva vedeshu.
Shabdha ke paurusham rishu.
Sabda ke paurusham rishu.
Mataji, can you read the translation, please?
O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man.
Man. Okay. So Krishna establishes the fact that the Om is similar to him, right? He is Om, right? So through this chapter, Krishna actually gives the qualification of those people who can leave this body while meditating on the Omkara, right? And because he told Arjuna in the previous verse about how one can meditate on him and leave, thinking that Arjuna might not know, he says, I'll summarize it for you and I'll share this how it can be done, right? Sometimes you think, this person may not know, and just you share, right? And so Krishna, being Krishna, he explains to Arjuna in a very summarized way, and this is explained from verse 11 to 13, through to 13, right? So from the purport, I'm going to ask you all to identify what are the qualifications of those people who can utter this Omkara and by this practice leave this world remembering the Lord. It's a very simple exercise. There could be 3 or 4 points. If you can pick it up, and if you've got it, just put your arms up or hand up, and then we'll ask you the question. Question is, Krishna explains, Prabhupada describes the qualifications of one who can meditate on the Brahman and on the Omkara and leave this body. So can you pick up a couple of qualifications that have been shared in this purport?
One is
One is chanting the Omkara. Okay.
No.
What is the qualification? Yes.
Person who is learned in the Vedas.
Okay, one person learned in the Vedas. So they should be learned in the Vedas. Yes, Prabhu? Brahmachari. Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
And who are taught the syllable Om from the beginning of student life.
Okay, they're taught. So that's through their brahmachari life, they are meditating on the Omkara. Yes. Anything else?
One who practices celibacy.
Which is brahmacharya?
Brahmacharya.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Adit.
Disciples under Lord Chaitanya who does the Hare Krishna.
Okay, no. Well, we'll come to that, but here Krishna's talking about those people not in pure devotional service, but who are in doing mixed devotional service, right?
I think another thing he mentioned is the difficulty of practicing celibacy in student life.
Yeah, so all that we will come to, but now we're discussing the qualifications of those who can practice meditating on the Omkara. Okay, so let me come to the point. Adit, you have a test in that room, a very simple test. After you finish that, you'll have an oral test. Hi, Krishna. Hi, Krishna. So, if we quickly read the translation, persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter the Omkara, who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. Right? So, one should be desirous of achieving perfection in this way. Right? Okay, so Prabhupada says in the purport that yes, one must practice complete celibacy under a spiritual master from a very young age, right? And when he does that, he gets acquainted with the Omkara, and he meditates on the feature of the Lord known as Paramatma feature, right? He's uttering the Omkara and he's meditating on the Brahman feature of the Lord, and he also comes to know about the Paramatma feature of the Lord, right? So that's first thing. Second thing is, Prabhupada also says that in order for one to quit his body by meditating on the Omkara, it is important that he practices this from a very young age. It is not like devotional service, right? Some of us have come into contact with devotional service, or have started practicing practicing devotional service, or started being Krishna conscious much later in our life, not from a very tender age of 5 or whatever, right? So, in order to practice brahmacharya, it has to start from a very young age. I mean, nowadays people do practice brahmacharya, but that is in their 20s or whatever, right? And generally what I've heard is like a reformatory stage. It's not like they're really practicing brahmacharya, because it has to start very young, right? Why should it start very young? Because when you start very young, they say when the bamboo is tender, you can bend it easily. Yeah. And if it becomes grown, then what happens if you bend it? It will break. It's not easy to change our practices when we become old, right? Especially those that are to do with our body and senses, right? So therefore, brahmacharya is something that has to be practiced from a very young age. But yes, like Prabhu said, devotees who take up the process of devotion through chanting of the holy names, they also practice brahmacharya. But that is a result of their devotional service. They don't, that is not their focus, right? But a focus for those who are serving their spiritual master from a very young age and practicing celibacy, their focus is what? Their focus is to practice celibacy and serve the spiritual master. And while they serve the spiritual master, they're gaining some knowledge. And here, people who have done this, they're taught to chant the Om. Can we all do that Om once? Om. I've heard that it has to be chanted from the Udara. I'm not an expert at this, so let's do it again. How long can we do this? How many times can we do this? Can you do this throughout your day? Can we do this for 1 hour? Okay, so that's the point for us to ponder about for later, right? Here are the kids from a very young age, or they meditate on this Omkara. They not just meditate on the Omkara, while they serve the spiritual master, their mind is always kept active in spiritual activities, right? They're serving the spiritual master by very menial service. They bring firewood, they're cooking, they're cleaning, they're washing their own clothes by themselves. They're also studying in the process, right? Every second of their life is is centered around spiritual activities. Not a single moment. They also get time to play. It's not that they don't get time to play. They also get time to play to keep the body fit, right? So everything is done with Krishna in the center, with service to the spiritual master being given prime importance, right? And the International Society for Krishna Consciousness also has gurukuls where it trains kids in the brahmacharya way of life, right? But like Prabhupada said, there aren't many institutions that guide kids in this way of life, right? It's an unfortunate situation that the modern education has in the name of equality or whatever, boys and girls are taught together. They're from a very young age they're put in the same class together. They're not taught how they should lead their life in a Vedic way, right? So that's an unfortunate situation. But yes, Srila Prabhupada and his followers are trying to contribute, trying to guide the people back to a very civilized way of life by guiding the children in the right manner. So the first thing is that in the Vedic system of knowledge, students from the very beginning are taught to vibrate Om and learn the ultimate impersonal Brahman by living with the spiritual master. And the second point is that by serving the spiritual master, what happens is you become fixed in your practices, your senses come in control, and then you do not deviate from that spiritual path, right? So that is one situation. But in this Kali Yuga, it's very, very difficult to practice this kind of austerity, right? If we ask a kid to sit quiet for 5 minutes, the kid cannot, right? So what Prabhupada and the Acharyas have taught us is that we dovetail our activities in the service of Krishna, right? So whatever we do, for instance, if the kid is a very active kid, we use his energy in the service of Krishna. Give him some seva that he likes to do, he loves to do rather, and thus utilize his energy rather than asking him to keep him or her quiet, right? So we use whatever abilities we have in the service of Krishna, and by doing that, what happens is our senses, our mind, everything comes under control. It does not wander or deviate. Yes. So there's this example of because people who leave this world and enter into the Brahman, go back to the Brahma Jyoti, there's no activity in the Brahma Jyoti, right? We all know that, right? What are the 3 ways of remembering or realizing the Lord?
Brahman realization, Paramatma realization,
And
and Krishna.
Bhagavan realization. Yes. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, right? When we realize the Brahman, right? When we realize the Brahman, what happens is we go back to the Brahman effulgence of the Lord. And in the Brahman effulgence, there is really no activity. You're merging into the light, right? So imagine this is a closed room and you're given all the amenities that you need for your day-to-day living, right? And you're asked to sit in that room and not do anything. Mataji is smiling. Can you survive 1 hour of your time in that closed room?
1 hour possible.
1 hour possible. 2 hours?
Still manageable.
3 hours?
For him is
Well, no, for him it's actually not possible because he cannot even sit in one place for a long time. So let me tell you all, during COVID, we all had to stay at home and we could work. But here this person had to go to work every day. He could not stay at home, right? So there's no way he can survive that 1 hour. So let's just ignore what he said.
Sorry, Prabhu. No taker.
Sorry, Prabhu. So we may be able to survive few hours, but given 24 hours, you think you can survive? Well, there are some people who can, right? If they're so determined to, right? But many, many days together, it's not going to be possible doing nothing. right? Because we are all jivas, we are all parts and parcels of Krishna, and our tendency is to be in a very active state, in a state of service, in a state of a relationship with Krishna. And when we are not in that state, we are not happy, and that's not our real state, right? So therefore, people who merge into the Brahman, they definitely come back, take birth in this world, and they have to go through this whole cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, right? Now, in this chapter, we're actually learning how to leave this body, right? While we learned how to live from chapter 1 to 6, in this chapter, we're learning how to leave the body, right? And in this particular verse, Krishna is talking about those people specifically who are in the renounced order of life. Because only they can have control over senses, right? The Vedic texts say that only those who have control over their mind and senses are qualified to make disciples all over the world. They are gurus, and they set example for others to follow, right? So Krishna says here, through the practice of brahmacharya, by the control of senses, by chanting the Omkara, and by meditating on the Supreme Absolute Truth, one can leave this world. That's what he's saying in this verse. And Prabhupada says that it isn't possible in this material world, in this age of Kali, to do something like that. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who propounded the Sankirtana movement, came forth and gave us the very, very simple process, right? This was quite simple, and Prabhupada is explained very beautifully in this purport, and therefore we must just take away the key point is that while we come in contact with so many different types of yoga, Kundalini yoga, swing yoga, humming yoga, I don't know what not, there are so much out there, and people are taking up to these processes, right? Because it's very attractive. But what is attractive may not be what is
required.
What is required for you, right? What is attractive may not be what is required for you, right? For instance, gulab jamun is very attractive, right? And we may be attracted to that. But for a person with diabetes, is it what he requires? No, right? So what is attractive may not be required for us, right? Therefore, Mahaprabhu came forth and gave us this very simple process of chanting the holy names of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He says, Iti Shodashakam Namnam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam Nata Paratarvopai Sarva Vedesha Drishyati. Yes, Mataji, what is that verse? Please chant Hare Nama.
Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva Gatir Anya.
Nasteva Gataranyata. Yes, 3 times he said. Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way than chanting the holy names of the Lord. That is the only process that will help us get out of this material world, attain the lotus feet of the Lord. You had a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand the difference between chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the Om. So Om is mostly for the impersonalists and Hare Krishna Mahamantra is for people who believe.
Yeah, I'm just coming to that. So, yeah, that's okay. The Omkara is chanted by, there's no harm chanting the Omkara, it is Krishna himself. But when we do chant the Omkara, we do not, first of all, it is not possible to do it and to attain love for Krishna by chanting the Omkara. Secondly, it is mostly chanted by the impersonalists.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's chanted by the impersonalists. Whereas Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is chanted by those who are in this path of Krishna consciousness, who follow the Brahma Madhva Gauri Sampradaya or any of the 4 paramparas, if it is given so forth. But generally, the devotees in the Brahma Madhva Gauri Sampradaya, because we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? I think that's as straightforward as that. But the Shastras say we cannot confuse the holy name of the Lord with any of those mantras in the Vedic texts, because the chanting of the holy name has its own merits and benefits, and cannot be compared. I think there is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita which says that anyone who thinks that the merits derived out of the holy name of the Lord is even equal to performing thousands of, Ashwamedha Yajna or, chanting any of the mantras, that person can be considered a Pashandi, an impersonalist, or, that's what that verse says. I'm unable to quote it right now, but it's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, chanting of the holy name cannot be compared. There is an offense in the 10 offenses to the holy name as well, that it shouldn't be compared to any of these Vedic mantras, right? Or the Vedic ritualistic things that we do. And I think I firmly believe, from what I've seen and heard from the acharyas, that this holy name is so simple, and it comes to those who Krishna has mercy on. It does not, you don't get the holy name by chance, right? You are bestowed the ability to chant the holy name because Krishna has chosen you to chant the holy names of the Lord, right? And that is why Mahaprabhu very mercifully went out and did this Nagar Sankirtan and gave the holy names to all, because he felt like everyone out there is qualified, because everyone is a part and parcel of Krishna, right? So only the most downtrodden will not get that opportunity to hear the holy name, right? Even Lord Jagannath, he comes out of his rath to give out of his temple in the rath to give mercy to the most fallen, right? So the holy name, which is non-different from the Lord, has the same mercy, same potency, and we can develop the same loving relationship as we can with the Archa Vigraha of the Lord by chanting pure holy names. Right? If our motivation, if our intention isn't pure, if we are not sincere, then what we get out of it will not be as powerful as what it would be if we are sincere in our chanting of the holy names, right? Because some people just chant because someone has asked them to chant, but even doing that has its own merits and benefits. I'll just share a story since we're talking about the holy name. Or let's just finish the part and then go to the story, because it can get extended. So, the brahmacharya life, right, it is part of the varna or ashrama? Anyone knows what are the 4 varnas? Ashram. Okay, what are the 4 varnas? Can you tell me in an order, please? Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Okay, okay, fine. What is the ashramas?
First one, yeah.
Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Okay, so all of us know that these varnas and ashrama are created by the Lord, right? Or is it man-made? How many of you say it's man-made? The divisions of society is man-made. Yes? Okay.
It was originally made by the Lord, but then it was misused by people.
Okay, so I think we all, come to the understanding, yes. It's made by the Lord, it's misused by people, right? Yes, Chaturvarnyam Maya Shishtam. Krishna says, this 4 varnas and ashramas are created by me, right? And so, following this varna and ashrama, it should lead us to Samsiddhir Hari Toshanam, right? It should lead us to please Krishna, right? Because if we do our activities centered around Krishna, what it will do is it will please Krishna, right? That is what this system of varna and ashrama is for. People have been created into different social orders and different spiritual orders for what? To support one another, to progress in this spiritual path. It is not to create distinction in people, right? So there's a story which I've shared in the past, right, about the Brahmana and the cobbler, if you remember. Does anyone remember? So, quickly summarizing that story, there was a Brahmana and there was a cobbler. This Brahmana used to serve the deities all the time. He would be chanting mantras and he would be doing everything to the Lord from morning to night, right? There was also a cobbler just across the temple under a banyan tree, and what does a cobbler do? He stitches shoes, right? So the cobbler would think of the Lord in the beginning of the day, and he would do his work, and at the end of the day also he'll thank the Lord, and he'll finish his work. Well, what does a Brahmana do? Entire day he's chanting Vedic mantras and doing seva to the Lord, right? So Naraji one day comes to visit, right? I'm summarizing the story, so I'll admit there'll be some bits and pieces missed. He meets the two, Brahmana and the devotee, and the cobbler, and he goes back to the Lord and shares, information about these two people. And they've asked some questions to Naraji. Please ask the Lord when we will be able to see him, right? So the Lord says, please tell the cobbler he'll come back to me in this lifetime, and the Brahmana will take many, many lifetimes to come back to me. So Naraji comes back and tells this to the Brahmana. The Brahmana is very shocked. How is that possible? You didn't actually meet my Lord. You just gave me some false information, right? That you met the Lord. So can you tell me what the Lord was doing when you met him? What does he say? He says the Lord is sewing an elephant through the eye of a needle. And the Brahmana is like, what? How can he sew an elephant through the eye of a needle? Are you even serious? I mean, do you know what you're talking about? So Naraji realized why the Lord said that, and he goes to the cobbler and he tells the cobbler, I met Lord Narayana, and he says that you're going to come back to him in this lifetime. And the cobbler is very happy, and he says, oh, that's so nice. Can you tell me what my Lord was doing? And he explains that he was sewing an elephant through the eye of a needle, right? And then he is in so much ecstasy, and he's just imagining that, and Naraji is wondering, okay, what is happening? This guy, this cobbler, he's not saying, anything, he doesn't think it's a false situation. And then he asks the cobbler, do you believe what I'm saying? And the cobbler is like, yes, why is it not possible for my Lord to sew an elephant through the eye of a needle? If he can put this whole big banyan tree in a small seed, he can definitely do that, right? You see, it is the faith that the cobbler had that gave him the opportunity to go back to Krishna in that lifetime. And Brahmana, although he was chanting Vedic mantras and everything, he did not have that strong faith, right? So what I'm trying to say is, all these varnas and ashramas are there for us to help us attain the Lord's lotus feet, to help us satisfy the Lord through, or please the Lord through our activities, right? But if we are not, then whatever we are doing is making us lead an animalistic life, right? Because that's what animals are doing, right? Eating, mating, defending, and sleeping, right? What differentiates us from the animals is atato brahma jignasa, the ability to inquire and move forward in the path of devotion, right? But we often have the tendency to sway from that track and go back into the animalistic way of life, right? So that is why when one is leading a very focused life from the very childhood, then he becomes very focused in serving the Lord. It is said that it is not that a brahmachari lives a brahmachari life always, right? When you grow up in Gurukul and you become a very staunch practitioner in this path, what happens is you become a better grihastha. Because in grihastha ashram too, you practice celibacy, right? Krishna says that he is a sex life that is not contrary to, what does Krishna say in the 7th chapter? To Vedic principles, right? So it's important we remember what we've studied so that we can correlate and connect. I mean, that is the purpose of studying the Vedic text. Studying the Gita is meant to help us lead this life in a better manner. And if you're not able to remember what we studied in the past, it doesn't help. But yes, we'll bring forth the points again and again so that we can remember. Prabhupada said, I repeat things because we're all dull-headed in this age of Kali, and therefore we have to be reminded again and again, right? So Krishna says his sex life that is not contrary to spiritual, religious principles or Vedic principles, and therefore even in Grihastha ashram, there is a practice of celibacy. Celibacy is practiced to the extent that, it is not practiced when one needs to beget a Krishna conscious child. Till then, celibacy is followed. Right? In Vanaprastha ashram as well, celibacy is practiced. and obviously in sannyas there's celibacy practice, right? So when you started from a very young age, there's hardly any question of getting derailed from this path of spiritual enlightenment. Okay, that's one. But in this age of Kali again, practicing spiritual activities which is connected to Krishna by dovetailing our interests in his service is much easier than practicing any of these yoga processes. The very fact that Krishna is explaining the different types of yoga is to just tell Arjuna that Bhakti Yoga is the simplest. Right? That's why he's explaining everything, right? Because if you don't know that other things are difficult, why would you pick the easy path? Right? We all pick the easy path, don't we? Or we like to pick up the difficult path, easy path, right?
Sometimes we think simple way is not a good way.
Exactly. Yes, that's the unfortunate situation. That's why it's also said, even though holy name is so simple and very potent, a lot of people don't pick it up because they don't understand the value of the simple thing, right? And that is why it's important to have satsanga, right? Only in the association of devotees will we realize the importance of the holy name, will we realize the value of the holy name. And so coming back to the story that I wanted to tell, Haridas Thakur, as we know him, he's the Namacharya, right? And he used to chant 300,000 names of the Lord every day, to the extent that he would not eat or drink till he finishes those names, chanting those names of the Lord, right? So there was this Ramachandra Khan who was very envious of Haridas Thakur, and he wanted Haridas Thakur to leave Penapula, the place where he was, right? And Haridas Thakur also wanted to leave, but he came to know that Ramachandra Khan is sending forth a prostitute to sway him from what he's doing. So Haridas Thakur, just to give special mercy to the prostitute, he stayed back. He stayed back, and when the prostitute came, she was just merely following the orders of Ramachandra Khan, right? So first day, she asked him, I'm here to serve you, and he says that, first I have to finish my chanting, and then I'll attend to you. So from morning till 300,000 names of the Lord. Even to chant 16 rounds, how long does it take for all of us?
2 hours.
2 hours. So if you have to chant 300,000 names of the Lord, how long will it take? Almost close to 22 hours, 23 hours, right? So he was chanting, and then by the time he finished, she already left. But she was hearing him chant. First day, second day, third day. And the third day, she finally waits till he finishes, and she's a transformed person just by hearing the holy names of the Lord. What did she have? She had the association of a pure devotee of the Lord. One whose desire to chant the holy name was so pure. His desire to chant the holy name was to please Krishna. He did not want to derive any benefit out of it, right? So because of associating with a person whose desire to chant the holy name was so sincere, this person who had ill intentions or who came to serve an ill intention, her heart and mind was transformed, and she accepted Haridas Thakur as her guru. Haridas Thakur instructed her, to leave everything, to give away everything, and come and surrender and serve Tulasi and chant the holy name. Right? So this is what happens. Chanting the holy name is so simple in this age of Kali. Just by hearing the holy names chanted in a very, by a sincere soul, our hearts and minds can get transformed. So how many of us have really taken up to the process of chanting the holy names? We've been associating with the holy name for a very long time, right? Not like this prostitute who met Haridas Thakur and got transformed in. Sorry, I think I want to hear all of you answer this question. How many days?
3 days.
3 days, not 365 days. Right? So anyone who has not taken up the path or who has not taken up to the process of chanting, our humble request is, instead of asking you to raise your hands up, our humble request is that you take up this process of chanting. What the holy name will do to you is really magical, right? I actually pulled up because we were reading Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita on Thursday, and I was told that I have to speak. So I copy-pasted the the letter that Prabhupada had written, because, so we're reading a chapter in the Leelamrita where Prabhupada is not keeping well. He's at the hospital. He's unable to attend the congregational meetings and different Sankirtanas. So he actually writes the letter so that it can be read to the audience, right? And there is this portion that I picked up so that I could share with all of you. Yeah, Prabhupada says, this process of Sankirtana, the singing and dancing, is so nice because from the very beginning it places everyone on the spiritual platform. There are different platforms or levels of our existence. The bodily platform, the mental platform, the intellectual platform, and the spiritual platform. When you stand on the spiritual platform, then all problems created by the necessities of the body, mind, and intellect and ego becomes solved. What does Prabhupada say? When you stand on the spiritual platform, then all the problems created by the necessities of the mind, body, intellect, and ego become solved. Therefore, I appeal you to join this movement most seriously. The process is very simple. We ask everyone to come join with us in chanting, hear something of philosophy of life taught by Lord Krishna, take little prasadam, foodstuff that is prepared and offered to the Lord, and peacefully with refreshed mind go home. That is our mission, Prabhupada says. So he's just requesting everyone to come and join in the process of Sankirtana, which is so sublime, which is so simple, and which will elevate you and free all of us from the problems of life that are caused, right? So yeah, so it'll be really nice, where obviously in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we always recommend the systematic way of studying the Shastras. Here in ISKCON Stouffville, we're doing one verse a day, a weekend, right? I've seen other centers where they club verses together and do, right? We're really going in detail and studying, and it is for us to retain what we study, right? So it'll be really nice if we see all of you week after week, and so that we can all study this together and achieve what we want to achieve, the goal of life, the Samsiddhar Haritoshanam. Please Krishna while we do this, right? Thank you everybody. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gopmande Hari Bol. So